Well, this is something that a lot of people aren't really surprised about, especially considering the negative reviews that this game has gotten since its release back in February. But apparently, the Suicide Squad game, um, it it's a financial failure for the most part, and honestly, like I feel like this is something that doesn't surprise too many people. I mean, when the game first came out, it was something that people felt let down by. And before its release, the hype for this game was crazy, And this was considered to be Warner Brothers game, like biggest like DC game of 2024. And this is something that I don't know. I feel it had the potential to be better than what it was, but I honestly feel like for the most part, people are not really into the Suicide Squad as much as DC or Warner Brothers games want them to be. And some people would go on record and tell you that the Gotham Knights game from 2022 was slightly better, only because I guess you had more recognizable names in the game, like Nightwing, Batgirl, Robin, and Red Hood. But at the same time, you look at Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, you had more, mature, adult characters like Deadshot and Harley Quinn and Captain Boomerang, the Joker, King Shark, the whole four-player co-op multiplayer game mode was like one of the main attractions for this game for the most part. The different weapons that people had access to and all that other stuff. But but yeah, surprisingly, this game did so bad in terms of, I guess, like not being a commercial success to a point where Warner Brothers had lost $200 million from this game within the past couple of months, and that's insane. If you look at the amount of success Hogwarts Legacy had back in 2023, that was probably the most profitable video game of last year. I think Hogwarts Legacy did like it earned like 1 billion in terms of revenue. So even though this loss from the Justice League or the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game was something that hurt them, I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's still a lot of money, but considering how much money they made from the Hogwarts game, I do feel that it's nothing to fret about. It's not like Warner Brothers is in the same ship as Square Enix, a company that has been consistently putting out video games um, that has flopped on a commercial level, that has flopped financially, and just games that people in general are not interested in. And I do feel that for the most part, the DC series, at least when it comes to video games, is becoming stale, and for the most part, more people are turning to Marvel, and I think one of the reasons is because the spotlight has been taken off of Batman. And for the most part, people just want to see a direct sequel to Batman Arkham Knight, which came out back in 2015. And I know Batman's popularity is not what it was in the late 2000s or the early teens, but obviously he's a bigger name and a bigger attraction than anybody from the Suicide Squad or any of the main characters that were featured in the Gotham Knights game. And and I don't think at this point, like anybody can really compete with Spider-Man in terms of popularity at the moment, because right now, Spider-Man, when it comes to superhero action adventure genre video games, Spider-Man is like the main attraction right now. You look at the series of Spider-Man games that we got: the Spider-Man game from 2018, the Miles Morales game, Marvel Spider-Man 2, which came out back in 2023. Like those games are all like very popular, and I'd say within the past like 5 to 6 or even 7 years there hasn't been like a DC game that has matched anything that Sony has done with Marvel in terms of popularity or in terms of commercial success or financial success or anything like that. So I do feel that if the Suicide Squad game came out like years earlier, I'd say around like maybe like the early teens or something like that. Back when DC was still like really popular, it could have been more successful. I just feel like the timing for this game wasn't good. And not to mention the Suicide Squad movie from 2016 was one that a lot of people didn't like. It wasn't as bad as many people made it out to be, but at the same time, it was one that a lot of people like heavily criticized, and a lot of people didn't really see the big deal in the Suicide Squad movie from 2016. And I do feel like at this point DC is trying to shove that down our throats, and they've been doing that for years now. And maybe that's one of the reasons why it's not necessarily catching on with casuals, because it just feels forced. Not to mention that DC for the most part, they cater to a certain agenda, and I think that's something that it kind of hurts the brand and all that stuff. I'm not saying that Marvel doesn't do it either, but Marvel is doing it in a way where it's catching on with fans and with casuals, and it's something that appeals to just about everyone, opposed to just adults for the most part. I do feel that DC, like for the past like few years, have been it's been becoming increasingly more niche in comparison to Marvel. And the crazy thing is, Marvel's owned by Disney, and the fact that Marvel is doing better than DC is kind of crazy in of itself. But I do feel that, the Suicide Squad game that we got a few months ago is something that's a miss. The Gotham Knights game wasn't necessarily a hit, and it wasn't necessarily a miss. But a lot of people will tell you it was a solid game, and the ending was slightly disappointing, depending on who you ask. But yeah, I mean, the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game was obviously a financial failure, and I'm not exactly sure where Warner Brothers Games is going to go from here in terms of making a new video game, or whether or not we're going to get a new Suicide Squad game at all in the future, for that matter.